Welcome to my channel, that is Professor LPT alias Food Technology. The today's topic is utilization of blood, that is the slaughterhouse blood from animals. Today I am going to discuss about the slaughterhouse blood, its possibility of collection or quantity and composition, and different kind of possible uses and preparation of some of the products like blood meal and other products in this lecture. And separately in another lecture I will discuss specifically about the use of slaughterhouse blood for food industry or for human consumption, and today briefly I will mention about that. First, let us understand blood as a byproduct. As you know, during the process of slaughter we do the bleeding and we get the blood, and that blood is the first byproduct. We also know that there are large number of animals are slaughtered daily, either it is cattle, buffalo or sheep and goat or pig. So that makes a huge amount of blood which is normally not properly collected, or simply it is allowed to go to the drain, and that creates a lot of hazards, pollution and clogging of the drain, and the environmental hazard, human health hazard. So all this blood can be properly collected and processed into very useful items, either for industrial purpose, for livestock feed or for human food purpose. So this blood approximately contains up to 20% protein, and that's why it is also called as liquid meat. And if we go by total solid also, it contains about 20% solid. So this blood can be used both for edible and non-edible purpose. If it is from healthy animal, properly and hygienically collected and stored and processed, then it can have many use for human food or in the food industry. Otherwise, if it is simply collected and not properly handled, but it can be processed into blood meal for livestock use, and other details I am going to discuss later. Now let us understand the blood yield, or how much blood can be collected during slaughter. So on an average 9 to 11% of blood will be there in animal body. So of which about 3 to 5% blood can be collected. That is the 3 to 5% of the live weight. That is about maximum 50% of the total blood. So in Indian condition, per animal, if we see the average yield of blood, in case of cattle and buffalo, we can get 10 to 12 kg. In sheep and goat, 1 to 1.5 kg. In case of pig, 2 to 3 kg. And in poultry, 30 to 50 gram. So this is the amount of blood. So if we imagine the total number of slaughter, then we can understand that how much total blood can be collected. For in a slaughterhouse, if there is a 10,000 large animal is slaughtered, then we can imagine 10,000 into 10 on an average. That much blood can be collected daily. So here we will see the composition and nutritional value of blood. As such, it will have around 80% water, so only about 20% solid. And if we see as a protein, it is almost 18 to 19%, and hardly about 1% is mineral and 1% fat. But if we see individual fraction, then in whole blood 18 to 19% protein, in plasma 6 to 8% protein, and in RBC concentrate, if we separate the plasma and RBC, that is RBC concentrate, that alone will have 34 to 38% protein. If we see plasma protein isolate, from the plasma by separate process we can make plasma protein isolate, which I will discuss in a separate lecture only for food use of blood. So there we can have about 71% protein, and we can make separate protein from RBC part, that is called globin protein isolate, that will have protein up to 91%. So in the right side we can see normally the blood can be separated into RBC and plasma. Then RBC and plasma can be separately stored or processed and used either for non-edible purpose or for edible purpose, which we will discuss later. Now first briefly we will discuss different kind of utilization of blood. First is use of blood as human food, that is it can be used in the sausages like blood sausage. If partially we can add the blood with the meat, then we can make blood pudding, which are very famous in Western countries. Then fibrin is a protein obtained by agitation and preventing the coagulation of blood, or protein part can be used as peptone in different kind of food supplements. Then we can make plasma protein supplements, as I mentioned earlier, that is a different process. And also it can be used as binder or stabilizer in meat products, that is the blood proteins, etc. So I am going to have a separate details lecture only on this food use of slaughterhouse blood in a separate lecture. So number 2 is industrial use of blood. Firstly, plasma used as waterproof adhesive in plywood industry. In tanneries, I mentioned earlier in the leather processing, so the blood albumin is used as finishing agent. Number 3, the lithographic coating solution which contains albumin, that is the serum albumin. In the textile dyeing it is useful. It is used as stabilizer for feed mixing and in pet foods. Then foam compounds can be prepared for as a fire extinguisher. It is used also in the ceramics and in cosmetic base formulations, etc. So these are different use that is in the industry. So other uses of blood, that is in the livestock feeding, that we are going to discuss details about the preparation of blood meal. It is an excellent source of protein, so it is used as protein supplement for particularly poultry and pig. Then mixed blood meal, that can be blood is mixed with other agents like different kind of residues, crop residues and husk or paddy husk or wheat, etc. And it is also a very good source of different amino acid supplements like lysine, etc. I am going to discuss more details later. Then it is used as a fertilizer, that is in seed coating or for soil pH stabilizer, or as a compound fertilizer, which is a very good source of nitrogen and phosphorus. Here we can see other uses like biochemicals and in pharmaceuticals industry, like preparation of amino acids, lysine, leucine, histidine, phenylalanine. We can prepare thrombin or prothrombin as blood clotting agents. We can prepare immunoglobulins or serotonin, peptone, plasma extenders, etc. Then there are several uses in the laboratory or in the as a bacteriological media like blood agar, tissue culture media, albumin and globulin as the laboratory reagent, then sphingomyelin, catalase as an enzyme. So all these things can also be prepared for use from the blood. Here we can see the different component of blood. So whole blood, which is collected without coagulation, can be separated into cells part and the liquid watery part. The cells part mostly it is RBC, so it is sometimes called as RBC concentrate, and the other part is plasma. But if we allow it to coagulate and then if we cut it, the liquid watery part will come out. In that case it is serum. But when we don't allow to coagulate, then it is plasma. So serum is equal to plasma minus the clotting factors. Now the cells part, as we all know, there is RBC or erythrocytes, then WBC or leukocytes and thrombocytes, and in the plasma there are certain proteins and the serum. So serum contains the main protein, that is the albumin or serum albumin, and the other protein is the fibrinogen. So they all can be separately used. They can be separated and used in different purposes. Here we will see different products from blood. Firstly, as I mentioned earlier, after collection it can be stored, but it should be with anticoagulants or with some agitation. That is a mechanical agitation process or mechanical defibrillation process which prevents the coagulation. Such blood can be separated with centrifugation and we can get the RBC concentrate and the plasma. Whereas serum is little different. If we allow the clotting of blood or coagulation, then later if we cut it, then we will get the serum. So this plasma and serum are the products from blood which can be used for different way or processed by different way, which I am going to discuss. Then if we go for mechanical defibrination, then we will get that white solid material, that is the fibrin, which comes during clotting process. So this fibrin itself can be used for many important purpose. Then whole blood we can process by heating, cooking and sterilization and drying. Then that is blood meal, which can be used in livestock as a protein supplement or as a fertilizer, organic fertilizer. Sometimes we can make foam compounds from blood, which is used as a fire extinguisher. Here we can see the blood processing. So if it is for edible purpose, it should be from healthy animal, it should be collected hygienically, and it should be with anticoagulation, and then it should be separated from the RBC part and the plasma part. And these two parts separately, either it can be stored in cold storage or frozen, or they can be dried. So the RBC part itself we can use directly in different kind of food industry or dried RBC. Similarly, plasma part can be separately stored frozen, and then we can add it directly in different food processing, or we can dry it and store. So all these details I will discuss separately in a lecture. Here we will discuss little more about the blood plasma and next about the serum. So plasma recovered from unclotted blood by centrifugation, whereas serum is obtained from clotted blood. As I have mentioned, the whole blood, if we collect and quickly agitate it, then the fibrin will be separated. That is called mechanical defibrination. Now that liquid blood is suitable for separation of the RBC and the plasma. When we want to use it for human consumption for food, then it is better to use a new method of blood collection, that is called the trocar knife and cannula. So this will be fitted directly into the large blood vessel and it will be collected directly like milking machine. So it is a most hygienic recovery of blood for food use. Otherwise, during normal bleeding, the blood can be collected in open vessel. It should have an open mouth about 45 centimeter and depth 15 centimeter, and as far as possible it should be collected hygienically, or we can collect it with anticoagulant. So to prepare plasma, collection should be done quickly after slaughter with anticoagulant. We can use trisodium citrate 4% or oxalate or EDTA. Now this plasma can be stored in large container or cans etc. and frozen, or it can be taken for drying, first concentration and drying, and which can be used for multiple purpose. So now briefly about the serum. So if the blood is allowed to clot, then later if we cut it, then the serum will come out, and this serum can be about 10 to 12% of the weight of the blood, and it can be stored at a low temperature at 4 to 5 degrees Celsius for 1 month or minus 20 degrees Celsius for 6 months. Now this serum also can be dried, which will have measure of albumin protein, and that can be used as a supplement of egg albumin in food industry. And sometimes this serum we can add phenol 0.05%, and we can dry it by vacuum or to a powder, and which can be used for food industry, and yield of albumin is around 10 to 20% of the weight of the serum. So all this thing again I will discuss in more details in the other lecture. So now I will discuss about the preparation of blood meal. That is one of the most common and easy way to convert the slaughterhouse blood into blood meal, where the volume will reduce, it becomes dry, and it is easy to store, and it can be used for long term, particularly for livestock feeding. The process is collection of blood, then storage and transport. There is a heat treatment that is mainly for sterilization and for evaporating the moisture, and then there will be a coagulation of the main blood, which can be pressed to remove much of the water or by squeezing. After that it will go drying. So the drying can be either sun drying or by cabinet drying, and then we can cool it down and do the grinding and then storage by after packaging. So this is the simple process for preparation of blood meal, which I will discuss little more details in different process. Now we will discuss about different methods of blood meal preparation. There is a small scale method wherein we can have a small cooking vessels and we can cook the blood and we can squeeze it with cloth and dry it. So we need some cooking vessels, heating source, straining cloth and drying tray. This drying can be done in the sun also. Then in the medium scale processing, the blood meal is prepared by using a cabinet dryer or a tunnel dryer or a rotary dryer. After that, it will be made into powder. And then there is a large scale processing which is done by spray drying or batch drying methods, or it can be done by dry rendering process. As I have discussed, the dry rendering process, the preparation of meat meal or bone meal. In the same way, blood meal also can be prepared. Here once again let us understand the process flow for the preparation of blood meal. The first is collection of blood. Then if it is not processed immediately, it can be stored, especially lime can be added. And then during processing, it is done by heating or cooking. So there is first coagulation, and then at the latter stage further heating causes sterilization, and then it is kept for pressing. So by pressing we can remove much of the water, or we can do it with the help of a cloth in case of small scale processing, whereas in case of large scale processing we need to have mechanical facilities to squeeze the water. After that we can do drying either in sun or in oven. So in tropical countries the sun drying is very easy and economic. After that we can do grinding or milling and get the powder. So this process can also be done in rendering process or in the spray drying process. Here we will see the composition of blood meal. Earlier I have mentioned the protein content should be minimum 80% or above. The moisture 10 to 12%, fat 1%, ash 4 to 3%, and lysine 6 to 9%. So it's a very rich source of lysine. The total yield expected is 18 to 20% of the blood weight, and the quality of blood meal is judged by moisture content, protein content, and ammonia content. So this is briefly about the composition or nutritional aspect of the blood meal, which plays very important role for livestock feeding. Now we will see about the use of blood meal. As I said, it is a rich source of protein, so it is an important protein supplement for livestock feeding. So most important source of protein for livestock. For pigs, to increase the weight gain of 8 to 10% per day. The weight gain can be increased 8 to 10% per day. For the best balance, it should be 2 to 3% of the total feed. It can be introduced into the diet of young pigs from the 10th day of their life. So in case of pig, there is always possibility for nutritional deficiencies or iron deficiencies. So that can be solved by adding this blood meal into their feed. Here we can discuss about the other use of blood products, that is the fibrin, which can be obtained in good quantity when we go for large scale separation of the blood, that is by mechanical defibrination. This white color solid can be separated in large amount. So several products can be prepared from this. The number one is the fibrin foam. Here the plasma plus citrate buffer is added at pH 6, then clarified by centrifugation and diluted to less than 2% fibrinogen, and the pH is adjusted to 6.25. This solution vigorously beaten to obtain the fibrinogen foam. So this foam is very suitable in case of surgical applications and all that. It can soak up liquid up to 30 times its weight, and very useful in nerve as well as arterial surgery and prostate operations. The number two is fibrin powder. This is used in arresting bleeding, that is the anticoagulant. So coagulation is delayed in the skin injuries. Then next is the fibrin bioplasts. So it is resembling like a plastic. It is prepared from fibrin powder. They can be molded even as joints and need not remove from the body. So this is a very useful in case of our medical purpose or pharmaceutical purpose. So here we will discuss about the use of blood as fertilizer. So first is we can use it for human food and food industry. Second is for as livestock feed, and the third important use is as organic fertilizer. So blood is collected in drums and transported in closed vehicles within 4 to 6 hours for processing as fertilizer. So here blood is preserved by treating with 2% formalin or 2% Lysol solution and dried in sun. The dried blood contains about 12% nitrogen with traces of phosphorus, iron and copper. So this dried blood can be a very good source of nitrogen for the soil fertility. So this is, if we cannot do anything, blood simply can be collected and processed and used as fertilizer instead of allowing it to the drain and causing environmental hazards or pollution, etc. Now we are at the end of today's lecture. Let me summarize. Today we have discussed about the utilization of slaughterhouse blood. So we have discussed about the yield of blood, composition of blood, how to be collected, what are the different use in different industry of the blood, and specifically we have discussed more about the preparation of blood meal by small scale, medium and large scale method, and little bit other uses of like fibrin or organic fertilizer. So it can be used for human food, which we will discuss in more details in separate lecture. And we have discussed about the plasma and serum, which can be stored, frozen or dried and used in food. And finally, the blood meal can be used for the livestock feeding, is a very good source of protein supplement. And if nothing can be done, simply blood can be easily processed and dried and used as a fertilizer. So this is in brief about the utilization of blood. The details can be studied from this book, and the further details about the food utilization we will have in a separate lecture. Thank you.